I had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, "Any last wish before you die?" Yo, reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, "Fill your claw, you son of a bitch." Now a legend spread across the land about this pistol-waving man. But if you're from space or from Earth below, you don't give no lip to Six Gun.
Welcome to Don't Whistle at Night podcast, where Navajo legends echo in the shadows. Darren and Dawn will guide you through the sacred fire of native storytelling, where the old stories breathe, the unknown walks among us, and voices, long hidden, rise to be heard. And remember, don't whistle at night.
Hey everybody, good evening and welcome to the Sunday night edition of Into the Night with me, your host, Sean Kelly. And I want to say hello to Miss Girl 84 and Mr. Kevin. How are you guys doing? And whoever else popped into the chat room or who are listening to the show at the 160 different countries that are listening to my show tonight. What a day. What a day. I don't know. Steelers won. You know, I'm alive, woke up alive. And I'm here tonight, Sunday night, and I'm here with you to talk about ghosts. That's right. I'm going to be talking about ghosts. But before I get into the topic tonight, I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio 105.3 Mississippi, 107.7 New Orleans, for allowing me to give you an hour on Sunday nights and Tuesday nights from 8:10 to 9:10 p.m. Tonight, after my show tonight at exactly 9:10 p.m., Mr. Don Yazzie will have his podcast tonight. It's called Don't Whistle at Night. And he's a good dude. He has good shows. He's got good guests. So after watching my show, go over and give him some love. And, just tell him I sent you. As my brother from another mother, as we all say. But I got some good, I got a special guest coming up this Tuesday. Okay. I was listening to CL's podcast along with Michelle DeRoche, and they were talking about different ghost sightings and stuff like that. And they mentioned the USS Constitution. Okay. Well, I'm having my brother on Tuesday night because when he was in the Navy, that was his first duty station. He was stationed on board the USS Constitution, which is the oldest ship in the United States Naval Service to this day. And he has a lot of stories to say, and he has his own personal experiences when he was on board the ship. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about him. God, excuse me, I think I'm coming down with a cold or something like that. I'm not sure. Hi, Michelle. Good to see you. Thank you for popping in tonight. And if anybody out there, could you please share this so anybody else can, jump in and join the chat room? But I'm really looking for Tuesday. My brother Patrick will be on, and he will be talking about his experiences on the USS Constitution. So tonight, okay, I want to talk about the famous ghost of the Civil War. But before I get into some of them, I would like to tell you about my experiences that I have had up in Gettysburg. And I have had many. But the first one I want to start off with, okay, and you probably heard some of these before, but it's been a long time. But the very first experience the best experience I ever had, I had a lot of them. Okay, me and my friends haven't had an RV, and we were staying at an RV park up in Gettysburg. And so one night I'm sleeping, and all of a sudden I thought I heard raindrops coming off on top of the RV. And so I woke and I figured, okay, it's rain. So I went back to sleep again. And not a half hour later, I continued hearing the raindrops. And I was like, these don't sound like really raindrops. Like little pings against the RV. And so I was listening more intently. Hey, Sally, good to see you. I was listening to it and, really thinking like, what the hell's going on here? And then as I really focused here, it was not raining out. I went out and checked to see if it was raining, but it wasn't. But the pinging on the side of the RV was going. It was hitting the side. I'm like, wow, this is like really freaking crazy. And I have no doubt in my mind, in fact, I'm getting chills right now. I have no doubt in my mind that there was some kind of skirmish that happened near or around that area where we were staying at. And the noise that I was hearing, it wasn't so much rain. I truly believe it was bullets hitting the side of the RV. I really did thought that, and to me, that was like it was a creepy situation because I really never experienced something like that. And I remember that week that we were up there that they pulled in, they set up the RV. It was solid. And like in the middle of the night, it felt like the RV just like fell over. I mean, it like cracked, like it was like a big crash, and it was just like the RV moved. And so my friend got up and he went to check, and here everything was normal. And he couldn't figure out what was happening. It just felt like the whole RV just collapsed. But here's the coolest part, okay? I mean, this was like really, really, really interesting. Um, so one night at the same week that I heard the bullets hitting the side of the RV, I was sleeping, and they have a dog, an old Rottweiler. I really forget his name. It's been a long time. But we were sleeping there, okay? And all of a sudden, as God is my witness, okay, as God is my witness, I heard, hi, just like that, hi. And me and the dog woke up and looked over toward the same place again, right exactly at the same place. And I was like, holy crap, there's a ghost. There was definitely a ghost in that RV. It was such a very, very interesting week in the RV. But that's what you get when you go up there into Gettysburg. You know, I keep telling people, you know, it's nice to go out, you know, with your video cameras and your EVPs and your digital cameras or whatever, and getting evidence, you know, on them, on the equipment. But the best evidence that you can ever get during a paranormal investigation is your personal experiences. Where, I mean, like, for instance, like with the bullets hitting the side of the RV, or that ghost, hearing that ghost say hi in the middle of the RV, in the RV itself. Those are the best evidence that you could ever get, is your personal experiences. And if you talk to any other paranormal investigators, if you talk to any other paranormal people, they will tell you exactly the same thing. They will tell you that the best evidence out there is your own personal experience. And what's crazy though, sure, you get something good on film, on the camera, on the EVPs. But you know what? And you're like, wow, look what I caught. And you show everybody out there in the world what you got, and all they do is laugh at you. I learned my lesson a very long time ago that no, you just can't show people anymore because they just ridicule the shit out of you. And they call you a nut job. I've been called nut job for many years in the paranormal field. So just having that personal experience on an investigation, that's the way to go. And I've had many, many up in Gettysburg. Well, about the following year, we were back up at that same RV park, right? Hi, Sherry. Good to see you, honey. Thank you for popping in. So we were in the same RV at the same RV park a year later. But we brought a friend along who believed in ghosts, but she was kind of skeptic. Okay. So this RV park, you could bring your horses, and there's stables there. Or, you know, if you're going to a horse show, you can bring your horses there, and, you know, stay the night or stay a couple nights, and you know, sleep, and then your horses have a place to stay. So one night we're sleeping there, and all of a sudden I just heard this thundering roar. Okay. And my neighbor and the girl that came with us too, she heard it. I mean, it sounded like a stampede. And all of a sudden you heard the horses out there going nuts. They were going crazy. And we're like, what the hell's going on here? And as we really listened to the noise, it was like a cavalry of horses going through the RV park. Ghost horses. Hey, Joni, good to see you. Thank you for popping in, hon. But it was so loud and it was so thunderous. It sounded like a stampede. And then we kind of like put our brains together and put two and two together. Okay, I have no doubt in my mind that was the cavalry of horses. And what a hell of a trip, man. It was great. Now, see, these are like the mild experiences that I had up in Gettysburg. Okay. I remember one, I don't know, there was day two or day one was Little Round Top. No, I'm sorry, Culp's Hill. Okay, so you parked at the bottom and you started walking up the trail. Now, Culp's Hill was, the first day of the battle. And as you keep walking up, you could see all the monuments, the Confederate monuments, the Union monuments. I'm not really going to get into the history of it, but if you want to know a little bit about Culp's Hill, just look it up and read about it. But as we were walking up, no, you're not late, hon. You're not late. I'm glad you're here. That's all that matters. But as we were walking up the path, all of a sudden, off in the distance, okay, we heard like a crying noise, like a woman was crying. And we're like, whoa, where's that coming from? You could literally hear the woman cry. And as we were walking up, we kept hearing it. It was like getting really close to us. And then we looked over to the right, and there was a woman dressed in all white. All white. A white dress, white everything. And what we did was we were like, wow. But every time that we tried to attempt to take a picture of her, she would disappear. But she was just crying and moaning. All right, making bread. Very good, vet. How about coffee? You haven't made coffee in a while, hon. But it was a lady in white. And so when we got back into town the next day, we asked some people, some locals, and we told them, let's say, hey, listen, we're out there. This chick was wailing. And we turned our heads, and she was all dressed in white. And they looked at us and they said, well, you just saw the lady in white. And the history behind her, the story behind her was that her husband or her fiance, got killed in the battle there on Culp's Hill. Or some other battle in the Civil War. And she was looking for him. Yes, I do want one, honey. I would like to have a cup of joe. But yeah, we experienced that. And then when we were filming it for Paranormal Pittsburgh, Gettysburg edition, the Gettysburg show. And this is when I had about like 6 kids with me. Well, not kids, young adults. We're walking out. And something threw a rock at us. Threw a rock. And we're like, what the hell? And it just was like, holy crap. Someone threw a rock. And of course, instead of us running away, we ran to it to see what was happening. And then that night, that when we did investigate in Culp's Hill, and we shot it, we got a lot of good evidence. We got a lot of mist, we got a lot of decent orbs. But the biggest thing that we got was something or someone throwing that rock at us. Now, there was one more experience that I had up there at Culp's Hill. So the farther you walk up the hill, they have acorn trees. Okay, up there, acorn or walnut. I forget which one they were. I'm going to go with acorn. They could have been something else. But when I went up there, it was like 80 degrees, no wind, full moon, clear sky. And so as we were walking up ahead, we heard the trees shaking. And they were shaking very violently. And all of a sudden, you heard these acorns just falling from the trees. And there's no wind. It was 80 degrees. And these trees were going crazy, being shook back and forth. I'm like, whoa. So we continued to walk up, but the closer we walked up toward the trees quit shaking. They quit shaking. And we were looking on the ground to see if there were acorns on the ground or walnuts, whatever was falling from the trees. And we went right there and we did not find nothing on the ground. There was not one acorn, there was not one walnut, whatever. Hey, what's up, Miss? I wish I knew how to pronounce your name, but welcome. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you. If you have an easier name for me to say, I'll say your name, but I'm not making fun of you. I just don't know how to pronounce that. But those were my experiences up at Cobb's Hill. Toe, okay. All right, Toe. But those were my experiences up on Cobb's Hill, which was day one of the battle of Gettysburg. But the more that you go up, the more experiences that you get. And whenever I would walk through town at night, you could actually hear like fighting in the streets of Gettysburg. It's a small little town, okay? And you have to remember too, day one, the Union soldiers had Seminary Ridge, and the Confederate soldiers pushed them back through the town of Gettysburg, and there was a lot of fighting that went on in the town. And the most, and 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, okay, you just hear things and you see shadows and you hear screaming and you smell gun smoke or gunpowder. Can actually hear the muskets going off. Yes. So, I mean, it's just like, wow. It's just an experience. And I mean, I can tell you all kinds of different stories. I have one more to tell you about it. But you need to go to Gettysburg and like feel it for yourself. Hey, Donna, good to see you, hon. You have to go to Gettysburg and you have to experience everything close to what I experienced. Okay. The one famous ghost in the town of Gettysburg, her name was Jenny Wade, the Jenny Wade. And she was the only civilian that got killed in the Civil War in Gettysburg. And they still have her house in the town, still has the musket the bullets hitting the house, you can actually stick your fingers into the holes. And I remember I did a tour through there because you can do tours at Jenny Wade. And we were there going through the tour. And then everything is like gate, there's chains. Okay, there's chains. And we were sitting there down in the basement. And you know what? Them chains started to move back and forth, which was great. And yes, we got chills up and down our bodies, my spidey senses, I call them. And I did not see her, but I did smell some like violet perfume or something very nice and sweet. Nice. It had a nice aroma to it. And I asked one of the guides, I said, could Jenny Wade be wearing some of this like perfume kind of stuff? And she said, yeah, more than likely. I was like, oh. So we didn't see Jenny Wade, but we actually caught a whiff of maybe the perfume that she was wearing. So those are the kind of things that you do when you go in a paranormal investigation. You use your sight, you use your smell, and you hear your ears. Those are the three best pieces of equipment you can use: is your eyes, your nose, and your ears. Even though we didn't see Jenny's ghost, but we smelt the perfume that she was wearing. Listen, it is getting to the 30-minute mark. I'm going to take a little 2-minute break, and then I will come back and I'll share some Civil War ghosts with you. So if you have to go to the bathroom, go get a coffee, do what you got to do. I will see you back in a couple minutes.
The night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Let's stop this conversation. We got no relation. I have come, it's cold and losing my control. The light is gone,
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second part of Into the Night with me, your host, Sean Kelly, on a Sunday night. A couple announcements I'd like to make. I want to thank UPRN Talk Radio, 105.3 Mississippi, 107.7 New Orleans. Excuse me. I also want to remind you that right after my podcast tonight, Mr. Don Yazzie and his podcast, Don't Whistle at Night, comes on about 9:10 right after my show. So, after my show, go over and watch his show and send him some love and tell him that I sent you. And I have a very, very great show coming up on Tuesday night. I was listening to CL's podcast with Michelle DeRoche as a guest, and they were talking about different ghost places where wars are fought. And they talked about the USS Constitution up in Boston. Well, I am going to have my brother on, Patrick, as a guest, and his first duty station, his first ship, was the USS Constitution. And he has experienced a lot of ghostal paranormal activity on board the ship. So Tuesday night, he's going to be here, and he's going to share his experiences with everybody. But we were talking about some of my personal experiences up in thank you, Vet. We're going to talk just one more experience I had that I think that is worth mentioning that I had up in Gettysburg. Was one night a long time ago, like third, fourth time that I've been there. We were sitting on top of a little round top, me and a friend of mine. And then all of a sudden we're sitting there and it's just about dusk, okay? And we heard muskets being shot, okay? And you could actually smell the gunpowder after you heard the gunshots. So to me, that was a wow moment for me, I mean, I could tell you so many stuff, so much stuff that I experienced up in Gettysburg. But if you really want to get the real experience, go yourselves. Go take a trip to Gettysburg. And if you're not in the Pennsylvania area or Maryland area or West Virginia area, find a Civil War place or any kind of battle that was fought a long time ago. And just do a tour of the place. But when you do that, you have to have an open mind. You really need to have an open mind. You can't be looking for the ghost, because the more you look, the harder you look, they're just going to run away from you. You just have to use your eyes, you have to use your nose, and you have to use your ears. But so I'm going to talk about some famous ghost apparitions of the Civil War, since this is part 2. Okay, numerous ghost apparitions and paranormal tales are associated with the American Civil War, especially around major battle sites and field hospitals, with Gettysburg being the most famous location for such accounts. These stories, which blend history and folklore, often involve restless spirits of soldiers, nurses, and civilians. Some of the most famous and frequently reported apparitions include the Phantom Regiment. And I saw them. They pop up on different areas of the battlefield. And they are a Confederate unit. And you can actually see them marching. I just caught a glimpse of them. I didn't catch the whole thing, but, I kind of like caught it from the side of my eye, and then turned real quick, and they were still they just faded off. And I have seen that, the Phantom Regiment. And of course, I talked about the Jenny Wade. Okay, she was the only civilian killed during the battle. Jenny Wade was struck by a stray bullet while baking bread in her sister's house. Visitors to the Jenny Wade house, hearing disembodied voices, unexplained movements, and the smell of baking bread. Now, see, I didn't experience the smell of baking bread, No, but I did tell you earlier in the show that I experienced watching the chains move back and forth. You know, you know. Let me get this one word when people talk disembodied. Like if they see like an orb or they see half of a spirit or whatever, disembodied. I don't like it. I don't think. Now, what do you guys think about that? I'd like to hear everybody's opinion. Is it just the correct word to say about spirits that they're disembodied? Sounds gross. I'm not sure about you. What you guys think? I would like to hear your opinion on it. Now, the next one, the Texas Soldier at Devil's Den. In let me see. Michelle says, I've heard a disembodied voice in my apartment, so yes, I do believe in them. Cool. Thank you for sharing that, Michelle. The Texas Soldier at Devil's Den, in the rugged area known as Devil's Den. Okay. Many have reported seeing an unkempt soldier in ragged Confederate uniform and no shoes. Typical attire for Texas soldiers at the time, who sometimes asked for directions before vanishing. And Michelle says, and I just think it means creepy voice from the other side. Mark Eddy, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Thank you for popping in tonight. But I never really, it's crazy because I've been all over that battlefield, but I never ever experienced anything in Devil's Den. But I've heard a lot of people talk about the Texas Soldier that people have witnessed. Okay. And I cannot say that they're false or if it's a lore or whatever. From what I have experienced at Gettysburg, I truly believe that. Maybe one day when I go out there, I can experience the Texas Soldier. The only thing that I cautiously warn you about Devil's Den is that there's a lot of hornets nest up in them rocks. A lot of hornets. So you have to be careful because you could be stung. And then there's Gideon, the drummer boy. It's that little round top. The ghost of a young Union drummer boy named Gideon is said to still be heard playing his drum. I have never heard the drum yet, but I've heard music. I've heard pipes, music being played. I've heard some drums, but to actually see a young drummer boy from the Union Army, no, I have never experienced anything like it. Here's my brother. Hey, there he is. What's up, dude? How are you? Don't forget, he's in the house. Mr. Don Yazzie, he's right here. He says, Don't Whistle at Night podcast. His is on right after mine. So, Dan, who you having on as a guest tonight, put it in the chat room and I'll tell everybody. But the next one I want to tell you about is the Gettysburg College Civil War Hospital. Okay. And here's the deal with Gettysburg College Civil War Hospital. One recurring report involves an elevator in the Pennsylvania Hall. Okay. And I've been to that elevator at that college, Gettysburg College, that transports some visitors into a time warp, opening to reveal a gruesome Civil War field hospital with wounded soldiers and blood-stained surgeons. Okay, Don't Whistle at Night. His guest is Kevin Beltran. He's a Zuni Pueblo member. So don't forget, everybody, after my show, go over and check out Don't Whistle at Night podcast with Mr. Don Yazzie, and listen to his guest, Kevin Beltran and Zuni Pueblo member. It's interesting. His stuff is great. His stuff is great. But when I first heard the story about the Civil War hospital, okay, um, what happened was that there was two ladies that worked at the college, and they were going home one night, and so they hit the elevator, and they were going to the first floor, to leave the college. But for some reason, it took them down to the basement of Gettysburg College. And when the doors opened up, you just saw all the wooden soldiers and the surgeons that had blood stained all over them. And what was crazy about it was that they were asking these women to come in and help them. So, like I said, I've been there many a times. I have experienced many, many different different situations. And I truly believe that these are actually happening, that these actually did happen, especially the Gettysburg College. I mean, if you ever get bored one night, you know, look at some of the ghosts of Gettysburg and just read up on them. But you can actually tell. It's crazy when you're driving down Route 30 or up Route 15 to get into Gettysburg. When you get close to the town, you can actually feel the energy change. You can. When you're driving, everything is nice, it's peaceful, the whole 9 yards, and then all of a sudden you get to the outskirts of Gettysburg, especially on Route 30, and you can just feel the air change. And it's not a depressing kind of feeling, not a depressing kind of energy, but it's just different. And when you hit the battlefield, I don't know, you have to experience it yourself. But there was one, um, one I'll talk about is the Bloody Lane down in Antietam, Maryland. Okay, there was a Civil War battle down there called Antietam, and there's a lot of killings down there at the Dunker Church, which was a Confederate hospital, field hospital for all the soldiers. And the main thing for the Battle of Antietam was called the Sunken Road, where the Confederates were laying in this sunken road, and they were shooting at the Union soldiers that were marching open field. And they were just killing them left and right. The soldiers just marched right into like hell, is what some of the soldiers said. It was like walking into hell. But eventually, what happened was the Union flanked. They flanked the what's it called? The Bloody Lane. That's right. They flanked it, and they shot into them, killing all the Confederate soldiers. So it's from 1861 to 1865. I'm telling you, up and down the whole East Coast, down south and up north. A lot of bloodshed. Do you know that the Battle of Gettysburg, there were 50, I might be wrong on this, but there were 53,000 Union soldiers dead, missing, or were taken prisoner of war. 53,000. And that's only in 3 days. Michelle says Gettysburg is on my list to visit. I'm telling you, Michelle, you got to go. And you just can't do one day, hon. You got to at least do 2-3 days. And yes, I'm going to tell everybody that. And, I'm not trying to make money for Gettysburg here, but you can't just do Gettysburg in one day. You have to at least give yourself 2 or 3 days, because there's so much to cover when you're up there. But the biggest ghost during the whole Civil War, and even to this day, was Abraham Lincoln. The ghost of the 16th president has been reportedly seen by several presidents and First Lady, including Harry Truman and Maureen Reagan in the White House, particularly in the Lincoln bedroom in the Oval Office, often gazing out a window toward the former battlefields. It is amazing, Michelle. It really is. But back to Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people see a tall man with a black top hat. A lot of people think that's Abraham Lincoln visiting them. And I've heard many stories about it. And I really can't give you a definite answer if it is Abraham Lincoln or if it's just a tall guy with a black hat. But a lot of people have witnessed and have seen the black hat man. So is he real? Could it be Abraham Lincoln? Could be, could not be. But all I could say is, you have to make that choice for yourself. If you think it's a ghost that you see, okay, you have to trust your gut. Don't ever trust your brain. Because when you start using your brain, you're going to start doubting everything that you see. But if you use your gut, and your gut says, you know what, that's something paranormal over there, I would believe that it would be paranormal. I hope you get to go to some of these battlefields that I've talked about tonight. Gettysburg, Antietam, Manassas, Harper's Ferry. I've been to Harper's Ferry. That's a crazy place. But it's a small little town again. And the history behind that is John Brown, and he was an abolitionist. I don't know, but he wanted the slaves to be free. And what's crazy about it, so they were down in the firehouse down there. And guess who arrested John Brown? Guess who arrested him? Robert E. Lee, who at the time was a federal general in the federal army. It's a really crazy story. There's a lot of crazy stories about the Civil War. It was sad what happened. All those people have died, brother against brother. But I don't know. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything happens for a reason. That's the way I look at it. But I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Okay. I know for a fact that Tuesday night, when I have my brother, he's going to talk about his experiences when he was stationed aboard the USS Constitution. And I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, he's told me some things that he witnessed, but he says there's more to tell, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I hope you guys pop in on Tuesday night to listen to the show. And if you can, please do me a favor, if you can, all right? Could you, share this show out to everybody? Spread the word about Into the Night with me, Sean Kelly. Children, if you can, please go to your parents, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And parents, please go to your children, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. And if you have no parents and if you have no children, find somebody, give them a hug, and tell them that you love them. Because those 3 words, I love you, go a long way. And on that note, don't forget, Don't Whistle at Night with Mr. Don Yazzie. He's coming on right after me. Good night and see you Tuesday night.